We have Dyadic. It's ticker DYAI, and we have the CEO of Dyadic, Mark Emalfarb, joining us. Mark, how are you? I got you muted. I see the little mute button, the little mute icon on your picture, Mark. So let's get you off mute, and then we can talk. There he is. Now can I hear you? There he is. How's it going, Mark?
Good, Brent. How about you?
I'm doing well. And hey, a little treat here for the audience. We're going to learn a little bit about Dyadic from you right now. But then right after this, you are going to be on a panel with a couple other biotech pharma execs. We're going to be talking about data and rapid COVID-19 diagnostics and treatment. That's right, Mark?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about, at least from Dyadic's perspective, of how we're going to revolutionize the way these things are produced in a more affordable, larger quantities to make the world vaccinated and treated when they need either a vaccine or a COVID treatment.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm excited. That's going to be starting in like 20 minutes. But for the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to hear from you about Dyadic, and I'll let you take it away, sir.
Do you see my screen or no?
I can't see your screen yet. There, I see it. And there is a little heads up. There's a little button. There's a little panel in the bottom middle. Hit the little hide button next to the blue button. Go down a little bit further. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Now we can see the whole slides.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's just jump in. Thank everybody for attending the presentation today. At Dyadic, we've developed over the last 3 decades a way to mass produce proteins, and we're going to talk about today how we can really use that technology to produce massive amounts of proteins in a short amount of time at a very affordable price. This is our safe harbor statement. So really what we're doing is we're going to transform biomanufacturing. By what I mean by transforming it is we're going to be able to take DNA, gene sequences, put them into our C1 hyperproductive cell line, and make products that could feed, fuel, and heal the world. And we spent 25 years feeding and fueling the world with companies like BASF, Shell Oil, Abengoa Bioenergy, and then DuPont purchased our industrial biotech business for $75 million in December 31st, 2015. And guess what? On January 1st of this year, our non-compete ended. And we're exploring how we might re-enter the feeding and fueling part of the biotech journey. In the meantime, Dyadic at a glance, we have plenty of cash on hand. You'll hear about the deal coming up with Sorrento, which is going to bring more cash into the kitty. And we have the ability to really ramp up what we're doing at an accelerated pace with a variety of partners on a global basis. The C1 technology is a versatile platform. It can be used for antibodies, it can be used for therapeutics, it can be used for enzymes, it can be used for vaccines. It's robust, it's versatile, it's scalable. We've actually scaled up to 500,000 liters. So we're actually scaling down for the pharmaceutical industry. And we have strategic partners all over the globe and an experienced leadership team. So speaking of the leadership team, you can see here, we are very skilled, balanced, over 20 plus years. Our CSO worked for Teva and Codexis before Dyadic. Matt on our CCO, GSK and Lonza. You might not know Lonza, but they're one of the world's largest producers of biomanufacturing of proteins for therapeutics. And Ping Rawson, our CFO, who came from us originally. She was at Deloitte, has been here helping us, guide us on the financial side. Pfizer, Merck, Phoenix, Carex, senior management, senior board leaders, corporate governance. I think we have all the boxes checked. In fact, I believe our board is as good or better than the big pharma boards for what we're doing with the right people for the right reasons. So the history of the technology, as I mentioned, it's been almost 3 decades since we first isolated this C1 cells in nature. We modified the technology to be able to hyperproduce proteins using that cell with very unique morphology or growth characteristics. And over the 20 to 30-year journey, we can engineer, put DNA in, DNA out, and make things or remove things from the cells to mass produce proteins and therapeutics virtually of any type and kind. We've established on the COVID-19 program, speaking of just specifically for a vaccine, we're working with Sorrento Therapeutics where we announced about a month ago that we have a license agreement with Sorrento to cover a big part of the globe. You can see coming up on the next screen, to make vaccines at a fraction of the cost, potentially multivalent vaccines that cover Wuhan, Delta, UK, South African, Brazilian, and the emerging variants. In India, we're working with Syngene, which is a division of Biocon. If you don't know who that is, I suggest you look them up because they're the real deal. These people have like Lonza, Patheon, and Catalent. Syngene's a CDMO, contract manufacturing organization, and Biocon, who owns 70%, avails over biologic production for insulin, antibodies, and other products in India and across the globe. The Rubik Consortium in Africa is just starting up with us. They're going to be doing the R&D, potentially building their own manufacturing facility based on the C1 technology. And then Meditox in Korea. Meditox is the fourth largest producer of Botox, and they're working with Dyadic since July 2020 on C1, working on a COVID vaccine. And Meditox covers not only Korea, but Southeast Asia. You can see here that we're nearing the potential to cover 100% of the world's population with what we believe is going to be a potentially really booster and prime and boost, but also a really attractive booster vaccine, because we're targeting the receptor binding domain, not the whole spike, which makes 80% of the neutralizing antibodies come from that protein. And so if we can mix and match the Delta with the Wuhan, with the South African, with the potentially the Lambda, the Mu, with the emerging variants, we have the ability to really change the game and to bring better control and broader coverage to patients on a global basis and larger volumes more affordably. Our development pipeline, it's not just about COVID vaccines, which we've talked about. We also have developed a COVID antibody, and that's being looked at and evaluated to see if and when we might be able to start advancing that into the clinical trials or preclinical trials. In addition, on the human non-COVID side, Hengrui, a large Chinese manufacturing pharmaceutical company, I think one of the largest biotech pharma companies publicly traded in China. Other top pharma companies, we're working on seasonal flu with the University of Oslo, and we'll get into that later. And then, of course, on animal health, we worked for 5 years getting ready for the pandemic and the Zoonosis Anticipation Preparative Initiative, but also on traditional animal health products, we can produce vaccines and antibodies for both farm animals and pet animals. So the markets we have are very broad and diverse. As you can see from this slide, we're not at loss for opportunities. So we're focusing in and zeroing in on what we think are some of the biggest opportunities at the beginning, but we can apply this technology very widely, very broadly. Again, feed, fuel, and heal the world, and basically make virtually any type of protein or therapeutic that people may want for whether it's animal health, human health, and potentially back into the industrial business as well. The addressable markets, as you can see here, are massive. So if we can just get a fraction of either way, that animal health, human health, biologic mAbs, bispecifics, the world's our oyster. We put in a piece of sand, out comes an oyster. In our case, put DNA in the cell, out comes a protein. But the advantage we have is it comes out in large volumes at very low cost. Our technology is based on a hyperproductive, industrially proven filamentous fungal cell. And by the way, filamentous fungi are nature's most productive secreting organisms on the planet. So we've spent over 20 plus years developing this platform on the industrial side. We use it to make enzymes for ourselves, sold those in 35 countries all over the world, licensed the technology on the industrial side to companies, as I mentioned, BASF, Shell Oil, Abengoa Bioenergy, and then, of course, the acquisition of the industrial business by DuPont. And we've grown it at a massive scale, so we're scaling down. In biotech, it's failed to scale. We're going the other way. We've already scaled at the levels that you're never going to need in biotech. High purity, hyperproductivity, robustness, flexibility, speed, and cost. Health equity, big topic these days. We're going to help transform health equity to actually allow people all over the planet, not just in America, get access to affordable health care by being able to produce these biologic drugs and vaccines at a much lower cost in a faster way. To give you an example, monoclonal antibodies. You've heard of Regeneron, you've heard of Eli Lilly, you've heard of these SARS-CoV-2 antibodies that people are using right now. There's even being rationed. There's a shortage. The capacity to produce monoclonal antibodies is limited. And we have the ability to produce 3 or 4 batches using C1 cells. And at the same time, you can produce 1 batch of a CHO cell, potentially at higher yields, at lower cost, in a faster way. This slide is just an example of many of the different types, classes of proteins we've made at record levels. Antibodies at 24.5 grams per liter or 3 grams per liter per day. An average antibody in a CHO cell is 4, 5, 6 grams per liter in 14 days. So you can see the difference. On the coronavirus antigen example, the SRBD protein, 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams per liter. Some of the leading companies are using insect cells, which are baculovirus cells. Companies like Novavax or Sanofi's recombinant protein vaccines. They're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of, I would think, 20 to 50 milligrams per liter in longer time period. And then they have to remove viruses, which we don't have in the first place with C1. So this just demonstrates the robustness, the versatility, the utility of the cell line to make different classes, types of proteins at record levels. As I mentioned, we spent 5 years working with the European Union and the Zoonosis Anticipation Preparative Initiative, getting ready for pandemics, working on the Rift Valley fever virus and on the Schmallenberg virus, proof of concepts. Israel Institute for Biological Research, we made an enzyme there to protect them against sarin gas and also on a COVID enzyme. On the human antibody side, we're developing a potential biosimilar, biobetter of nivolumab. That's Bristol Myers Squibb's $8 billion antibody for cancer, Opdivo. And in this particular case, our business case here is proof of concept that we can make Opdivo. We'll be able to make dozens, if not hundreds of other antibodies, Humira, Keytruda, you name it, we should be able to make them in C1 faster, quicker, cheaper, and larger volumes more affordably. Our business strategy, co-development, technology licensing. On the left, you can see here with Big Pharma, upfront cash, milestones and payments. Sorrento's a peek at what we're doing there. In the Sorrento deal, we're getting, it's a binding term sheet. Hopefully in the next week or two, we'll finalize that and have a definitive agreement, which will bring to us cash up front, $5 million, $5 million in Sorrento stock, and up to $4 million in reimbursement. Funded proof of concept, we've had dozens of those helping us advance the technology. We still have many of those in both animal and human health. Small and medium biotechs, this is where we have the potential to get equity, milestones, and royalties, where they don't have the cash for an upfront access fee. We've been getting equity in some of these small companies. In fact, we just cashed in on one of those equity pieces for 1.3 million euros last quarter. And then grants and contracts. On our own internal pipeline, as we talked about Opdivo, that's a biosimilar, biobetter, potential to not only use that as a proof of concept to make dozens, if not hundreds of other antibodies, bispecifics, trispecifics, etc. From an acquisition potential of certain aspects of the company, like we sold off the industrial business to DuPont for $75 million. We hope here engineering C1 to make vaccines and drugs to get numbers in the ranges of, you see Merck spent $400 million in a yeast cell to glycofy. J&J spent $2.4 billion to buy Crucell on a different cell line. Ligand spent $516 million last year to purchase Phoenix, and Sanofi paid $750 million to get access to, amongst other things, to the baculovirus expression system, which we've talked about, we can make several times more quicker, faster, cheaper proteins using C1. Our objectives here are to advance towards phase 1 human clinical trial in conjunction with our partners and collaborators in India and Africa, in Korea, and in the US and North South America with Sorrento. Animal health programs continue to advance the development of the platform and moving a vaccine now towards acute respiratory disease of birds. Human pharmaceutical programs to work with top pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, towards getting those upfront license fees, access fees, milestones, and royalties. And of course, with the small biotechs, potentially instead of the upfront cash access fee, potentially equity in these companies with the milestones and royalties down the road. An infectious disease strategy for animal and human health. We have the ability, we believe, to make more antigens quicker, faster, at flexible commercial scales than any other vaccine manufacturing platform. In addition to that, we can swap out genes of interest. For example, we can switch from Wuhan to UK to South African to Brazilian to the Delta variants every 2 months. We can swap and make a whole new variant, stable cell line with the potential to make billions of antigens for vaccines at flexible commercial scales globally. The key takeaways: proprietary C1 gene expression technology. We continue to refine it, to develop it, to evolve it, move it more towards the human therapeutic side from the industrial side. We made great progress in the last several years doing that. We're now working with big pharma, big biotech, governmental agencies. Competitive advantage: higher, quicker, faster production of the products of need. Again, bringing health equity, lowering the cost of goods, just transforming biomanufacturing. Plenty of validating partnerships, and we expect more to come. Opportunistic business development on both animal and human. Multiple shots on goals, not just in animal and human health, but a growing number of areas and applications in the billions of dollars of opportunities. We had $25.8 million in cash and investment securities, no debt, fully funded R&D programs, and of course, now we'll be getting some more cash in after we close the deal with Sorrento on a definitive agreement the next 2 weeks. And we hope to drive process and execution excellence as we continue to apply this technology more broadly on a global basis to make dozens, if not hundreds, of products on our own in conjunction with partners or with license agreements. And with that, I will thank you and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, one quick question here for you, Mark. So a couple slides ago, you were highlighting, rising sort of M&A interest in platform names, right? I mean, why do you think this is happening right now? What's the allure, I guess?
Well, the allure is that the world needs to make proteins, right? So whether those proteins are for animal or human health, for industrial purposes, or a variety of other applications, we've scaled protein production to levels that you would never imagine in the pharmaceutical side, coming from the industrial side. So we're bringing the power of industrial production or biomanufacturing into I would call it where they used to make small amounts of expensive things. We're used to making massive amounts of low-cost things, and the two worlds are colliding. But the world is demanding health equity, and we're going to help deliver that.
Awesome. Good stuff. Mark Emalfarb, CEO of Dyadic.